to a special edition of the Darden Admissions Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'd like to feature a recent conversation with Raj Venkatesan. Raj is a member of the marketing faculty here at the Darden School of Business, and he is also an academic director for the MS in Business Analytics program here at UVA, which is a partner program between the Darden School of Business and the McIntyre School of Commerce at the university. In this episode, we talk with Raj about the MSBA program, how the faculty keep the curriculum current, some of the projects students will be working on here at Module 5, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. As always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an update. And remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Raj Venkatesan. Raj, welcome back to the podcast.
Pleasure to be here, Brett.
It's great to speak with you. How are you doing? How's everything?
Doing well. Getting ready for Mod 5. It's spring out here and alumni reunion in the next 2 weeks. So next 2 days, sorry. A lot of things going on. Exciting times.
Yeah, that is the nature of spring at the Darden School, where you have big mid-student weekend, Darden Days, followed by alumni reunions, and then just a few weeks later, you're going to have graduation for our MBA students. It's a pretty incredible couple of months.
Yeah, it's going from one meeting to the other. And I'm also teaching in the residential MBA program, my elective. So that's going. It's on digital marketing and a lot of AI in there, and so a lot of hubbub.
Yeah, can I ask you about your elective? Can you tell us a little bit more about the digital marketing course?
So digital marketing, I teach for the first years. These are people who are getting ready to go to their internships, and think about it as giving them a toolkit to learn how marketing stays the same and also changes with digital, and now more so with AI. The course is structured around infrastructure, which is basically all the platforms through which you can advertise, and privacy concerns and data governance. And then we cover owned assets, which would be your own website, customer engagement, customer journey mapping, how do you deliver excellent service, and also monetization and sales strategies for enterprise software. And on the paid side, then you get into your understanding customer insights using online data, paid search advertising, YouTube advertising, influencer marketing, and then there's integrating simulation and some discussion about ethics and how consumer behavior is evolving. So a lot of newer topics. Every year I need to figure out new cases, and also I give some options for students to select topics they want to discuss, 2 topics in the early part of the class, like in the first week itself. And then that allows me, and I pick the 2 most popular topics. And towards the end of the course, they have, I provide them materials based on their selections for discussion in class. So there's some flexibility in terms of some things that I prescribe and also things that are more current that they are interested in knowing more about. So, and that gives me an excuse to learn about what's going on as well.
What are some of those hot topics that students have indicated they want to talk more about?
So influencer marketing always is a hot topic, although I have a class on that. They want to talk more about it. Tomorrow is that class where we'll talk about creator economy. Basically, people like Mr. Beast, or for example, becoming creators of their own and having their own platform. And now Mr. Beast is on Prime Video as well. There's this food blogger, Keith Lee, primarily around DC and other regions. He has become famous mainly by his TikTok videos, but his whole shtick is he doesn't take money from anyone. He just goes, orders the food, and comes out, sits in his car and eats and shoots a video on how all the food was. and he doesn't go to he goes to like, casual restaurants, not like fancy restaurants. So he's gotten, and there was a review, there was a piece about him in New York Times on like how he has changed the whole food critique industry, where he's the anti-Michelin, right? And so, and this guy has become big, and there's another TikToker, University of Miami student, who became big in the cosmetics and skincare space. And she's launched her own beauty brand. And did you know Time also has a 100 list of biggest influencers and creators? And so, and some many of them like this Mr. Beast, or even Alex Earl, who's this creator in the beauty in space, they have launched their own brands. And so and it's also Rihanna, you can think of with Fendi, but they have all, and it's not just that level of celebrity. You can gain a level of following as a influencer, and then you go into a space where you are launching brands. And Sephora, for example, has Sephora Squad, which is like a group of influencers that are recruited by Sephora, giving advice to people. So this whole economy has built up. And so what is the future of brands that creators make? Are they sustainable? And how do brands work with creators? So that is like the creator economy class. And the second hot topic was on how is consumer behavior changing with AI. More people going on AI for searching, and then you have the agents as well. Yeah, shopping maybe for you, and advertising on AI agents, yes, advertising on ChatGPT or Gemini is both have announced that ads will be coming. And so, how does consumer behavior change? How will consumers view ads on those platforms? How do brands engage with them? That's the next hot topic that they want to discuss.
That's super cool. You mentioned you've been incorporating AI increasingly into the class. Maybe an example or two. We get this question from prospective students all the time about how are Darden faculty incorporating artificial intelligence into their class?
So there's a class on consumer insights in this course where they have to use Google Trends AI, and they have access to a social media listening platform to understand consumer preferences for a brand, and look at competition, identify competition, and also then take that to identify what keywords to bid on. And they're using primarily AI to understand like preferences, comparing it with other sources like social media. A lot of times social media doesn't get featured in AI, which is kind of interesting. The social that they have is Reddit, but your Instagram reels and YouTube reels, not much. So that is a social media platform, a listening platform called Infiji that they get access to, that they can listen here. And so that is one way we are including AI. And in this course, it's a lot more discussion oriented, based on like how do you monetize Roblox, right? And AR, VR in that sense, AR. Or there was a case study on Loris, which is a company that provides AI-based assistance for customer service agents. Well, how do you, and they had 3 different products, which product to lead with, what kind of pitch do you make, cost reduction or revenue increase. So then it's more strategy around how to sell AI. And if you have an AI-based platform like Roblox, how do you monetize? And how do you use AI to understand about your consumers in this elective? Now, in MSBA, that's a different deal where they can do much more in terms of using AI to code and build predictive machine learning models. They're using Jupyter notebooks, Google Cloud or AWS Cloud. They're learning about data lakes. They're building LLMs. understanding governance policies for LLMs. So I think they are a little more hands-on in MSBA than in the MBA class, which is more focused on the strategy side of things.
Well, Raj, thank you for indulging those questions. It's just really cool to hear more about your elective. The students in that elective, are these oftentimes people who are going to go work in marketing related roles in their summer internship?
Some are, some go into tech companies, some go into consulting. And all of this, as you can imagine, tech and the influence of technology, even though it's marketing, is very important. Like um, the discussion on Roblox or low risk that I described is exactly the kind of decisions a product manager will need to make. Right. And also, um, today we discussed a case on a protein supplement company and their influencer strategy. So that might be a more marketing role. But the consumer insights exercise, or we looked at um, whether a certain YouTube campaign worked or not, those could be a consulting engagement too. So what we do straddles between strategy and pure marketing and technology. So I end up having students interested in all three of those in the class, which makes for a rich discussion as well.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Well, thank you again for coming back on the podcast. MSBA is moving right along. The cohort is almost done with the program. In they're in Module 4 right now,
Yeah.
approaching Module 5. But I want to spend some time talking about Module 5 because to me, it's always the module that captured my attention because the students have an element of choice. Like they get to choose their projects, to source the projects that they're going to work on in Module 5. So tell us a little bit about Module 5 in the MSBA program.
So Module 5 is exciting because it's like the capstone course, capstone of the modules. And as you mentioned, there's a course on, there's a project. They have a course on data and tech ethics. There's a course on project management. And then there's a course on how businesses apply AI and analytics. This is more around, there are two sections in this course. One section is visiting companies in DC and understanding how they're implementing AI. And there's another section that goes to a global location. This year it's Finland and Estonia, understanding how AI is applied in those regions and how regulations may affect the application of AI. So as you can see, all the courses end up around leadership and application of analytics and AI. And so that is the key aspect here is you've learned how to do AI and how to use analytics. Now, how do you take all of that and lead teams and lead projects with AI and implement and scale the insights from AI? So the capstone project is a very integral element of the core module 5. And in this, students are in groups. We have about 13 groups now, and they can choose which project to engage with. The only requirement is it should be a real project about predictive analytics. Right? They should have some data that they're analyzing and predicting something. So that is the only requirement we have. So it's not like a primary data collection project or a data cleaning project or a strategic assessment project, right? It's a doing and building project. And students are welcome to source projects from their networks or even work with their current employers. Many times they've done that and had a good experience with it and also good results from that in terms of promotions and change in positions, etc. And we also source projects for them. So the MSBA program advertises availability of these projects, And we've got some good, over time, a lot of interest in that. And this year, we have 13 teams, and we sourced 16 or 17 projects. Right. And then the students had some projects that they wanted that they sourced as well. It's a rich, and so now my job is to tell sponsors that you may not be selected. The students select which project they're going to work on. But we still see enthusiasm because of the quality of the projects that they have been getting. We have companies that come. There's one company here that's coming for the third year. We have a lot of repeat companies. One great thing I see in this is we're able to source a lot of these projects because they are brought to us by our MSBA alumni who have gone through this process before, seen the value it provides, and have been able to convince their company to come and engage with us again. So it's become like a nice flywheel that is already in effect. I always remind the students also that you have all these nice projects because your alumni brought them to you because they created value for their sponsors. So you have to carry that forward and create value for your sponsors so that, the next group that is coming, you're passing it forward. So, and I think that brings in a sense of commitment and ownership also among the students, which is great to see. And the module starts in second week of May, but by now, so we start working on the projects early on in terms of sourcing. So we start the process in early December, and by March 1, we had all the sourcing kind of done, and students were provided like these options. And then they send us their preferences. And by April 1, the companies that were sponsors submitted sample data to us. And so we vetted the data, and we have seen that the sample data seems to be working, seems to be good, no major issues. So all the projects are on, students have their preferences, everything is settled already. And now the students are in touch with the sponsors, the full data can be transferred to the students or however the arrangement needs to be done, so that when they start the project in May, all that work is done and they can then just focus their effort on the project. So we've done a lot of legwork earlier in like December to April timeframe where all of this is arranged. So now we have like 13 different projects running from different companies, right? Like we have a sports analytics company, a fraud analytics company, two defense contractors, a nonprofit, consumer packaged good company, two consumer packaged goods, a consulting company, healthcare, real estate. So wide range of industries. And that's also why we allow students to select, because they can then select the kind of industry they want to be in and learn deep into this. So it almost acts as an elective where they're like pursuing their interests. And so it's exciting to see all of this come together. The sponsors, some also come to the final presentations, so they can meet the students in person if they've not already done that. And that's right before graduation. So it's a nice little graduation at the end when they're presenting the capstone to the sponsors.
Thank you for that summary, Raj. It obviously sounds like an exciting time for the students in the program. I'm curious, what if you had like 20 students who wanted to all do the same project? How do you figure out, the assignments or who gets to do what? I imagine some projects might be more popular than others.
Yeah, so yeah, of course, that does happen. So we ask for three rank order 3 preferences. And also some in terms of like it's not just 1, 2, 3. Sometimes students are indifferent between 2 projects or just slightly prefer one over the other. And then we try to do some fit also based on if somebody is working in that industry or some industry insight, then we would give them preference. But also sometimes sponsors have projects where they can be split into 2 halves, so we can do that as well.
If a student comes to you with their own project, how do you vet and evaluate that project?
Yeah, I talk to the sponsor. Almost all, even with the ones we source. I've talked to all 16 of the sponsors because one is I can say from that whether they're committed and are they going to follow through. I also communicate the commitment that this is that it requires, but also I brainstorm with them the right kind of project that will be addressing their needs and also the needs of the students and the needs of the course.
I'm curious, are there any favorite projects you've had from the past MSBA cohorts? Any projects that stand out in your mind?
So you can't say favorite, right? You can. We did some project with Boeing. That was interesting. That was on predicting part failure. That was interesting. We did for UVA purchasing. We did the inventory management and sourcing project. We did one for a big ad agency, a digital ad agency, a project on predicting who their on predicting building an acquisition model, right, to predict which prospects will become customers. We've done a few projects with nonprofits, mainly around, like for Bond Secors, we did a project on raising donations and targeting donors. We have done projects that this year it hasn't happened, but usually there is a coffee shop or a brewery trying to understand which SKU sells the most and how to advertise their um, products. We have done a project on a business that's a nonprofit helping source donor. The nonprofit is based in Kenya, and they were looking at how to predict the demand for fertilizer from farmers, and that was in Kenya, right? And so yeah, and Riska is a nice company that's come third time, and this is on fraud detection and in money laundering. Right? And so a lot of variety and a lot of interesting. I learn a lot from all these projects of the different industries as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that's quite a diversity of projects.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what makes for a great project for students?
I think the project, what makes great is, first of all, students feel like they made an impact with the sponsor, that the sponsor feels that this project provided insights that is going to drive some action within the sponsor. Number two, it provides them a way to apply the skills they have learned in the MSBA in a real situation in an effective way. There's good data, good challenges in bringing the data together, in trying out different models and selecting the model that works the best. And there's an insight that comes out that is clear that they can then recommend to the sponsor. And also, engagement with the sponsor is important. The sponsor is committed, clear, giving them guidance, and shows and is encouraging the students to, is and shows that they care about the project. I think that is really important.
Well, the MSBA program is one of those programs that feel like y'all are constantly adding new things, trying new things. Obviously, technology continues to evolve. One of the most common questions we get from prospective students is how do you keep the curriculum current, particularly if you look at all the things happening around AI and new tools that you can use to understand large data sets. How do you do that?
So the first is also that we are also connected with the industry. Uh, our faculty are experts and do research on these topics. They go speak in conferences, they've consulted the industry, so they understand what is going on. So that connection to practice starts with also the faculty being connected to the practice. So they understand what is happening. And based on their research training, they're able to see and detect trends and make some bets that are educated. The second is also these projects, and our learnings from these projects inform what over time when we see more and more AI coming up or more and more LLM type project requests coming up, which we have seen now. And these conversations I'm having with all these sponsors inform me about what's on their mind and what are the things that they are trying to address. And as we see some patterns, it also allows us to reflect back on our course to see what is missing and what we need to add. And in summer, we do that, at least the program directors do it every year, but every 3 years or so, we bring all the faculty in summer to discuss what is it that we need to be doing that we're not doing. We constantly survey the alumni to see what was useful, what are the things they're using still, what are the things they wish they could have learned. So that alumni survey also feeds in. So it's not just one person thinking, it's many people with different perspectives, with different yeah, experiences, faculty, s- project sponsors, alumni, coming and telling us here are some things that we think the MSBA does well. Here is what we are seeing in the landscape. Here are some things we need to learn. And us going back and looking at our curriculum constantly to see not only the courses, but within each course, are we teaching the right things the right way? So now constantly there is a constant innovation, at least now, for example, on how much we bring in Gen AI into coding and to learn about like how do we bring it in a way that you know to use it well, but at the same time you're also trained in like the models that Gen AI is running to be able to use it better and also make the right inferences.
That's great. I'd love to hear about the faculty and how you're trying to keep the curriculum current. I know so much work goes into that because it's a 1 year program and students are doing
Yeah.
a lot over the course of that year. But talking with you and Jingjing, I know you have such passion for the bleeding edge of what's happening in industry. So you mentioned the second residency in Charlottesville. So there's 10 weekend residencies over the course of the 12 months, essentially 2 weekend residencies per module. The final weekend residency in the program takes place in Charlottesville. It coincides with the end of program celebration. What do you enjoy about that weekend residency in Charlottesville? Obviously, it's the second time the students have been in Charlottesville, but what do you enjoy about it?
Yeah, so it's also, yeah, absolutely. I think the seeing the capstone projects come to life, them presenting and seeing the sponsors interact with the students and the value they see from these is definitely quite a joy. And also seeing the students and their families during the end of program celebration, knowing that this is an investment not just from the student, but the whole family and friends around them is very encouraging and gratifying. I think those, I would say, I'll put it on top of all the experiences that makes it a special event.
Well, Raj, one more question for you. For folks who are listening to this who've got interested in the MSBA program, what is your, why UVA's MSBA program pitch?
Yeah, so I think more so now than ever, if if your skill is just in coding without any contextual knowledge or any kind of emphasis on how the analysis affects the broader environment and a business, um, it's you're not going to be successful. Gen AI has made coding a commodity. It has made analytics a commodity too, to some extent. But the people who are successful are the ones who understand analytics substantively, who know rigorously what analytics and AI does, but are also then able to innovate, are creative, are able to connect with others, build good relationships, and also understand the context of business within which analytics and AI exists, and also understand how to make inferences from the data and connect those inferences to actually implementation, adoption of AI, and scaling this. All of that requires some of the skills that we teach, like leadership, strategy, communications, in addition to the analysis. So, really, the people who are going to be successful, especially with Gen AI, are the people who have both the left and right brain thinking and are able to bridge the gap between the two. And that's exactly where our MSB has traditionally been positioned. So, in a way, we are now in a place where we just didn't pivot into this. We've always been here and we know what this is about. So, what is happening around us is actually validating our approach. And that's why I would say Darden and McIntyre, UVA's MSBA is exactly the right kind of MSBA you need to succeed in a world that is getting transformed by AI.
Yeah, I'm so curious. Obviously, we're here at the end of our conversation, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how Gen AI is changing this. Like you mentioned, it's making some things sort of commodities. Can you say more about that?
Well, it used to be that you needed to know how to code a random forest or how to merge two data sets, and you didn't have any help in how to do that, and you had to put in a lot of effort. And that was a skill that, if you developed, it was a rare skill that you can then leverage to be successful at work. Now you can ask Gen AI to merge data sets based on some criteria. It will do that, or it'll write a code for you to do that. And then you can ask it to analyze and just say, "Oh, here is my dependent outcome I want to predict, and here are some features I want to see." You are talking to the AI, and it is doing all the technical work in the background. So, what is a skill that is important now? The skill is knowing what to do, asking the right question, understanding if the AI is giving back what you need and the right thing. So the skill set is changing. And how do you know what the right question to ask is? You need to understand the business context. You need to be able to talk to consumers. You need to be able to build relationships with the brand team or the product team if you're a data scientist. You need to be able to tell even the AI what you want and translate what the business wants into what an AI should do, take what is there from that and translate it back. And so those are rare skills. Those are skills that you need to train yourself in. You don't have an AI doing it. And so as AI gets better and better, and it already is there, any investment that you put into, "Oh, I can code something myself," is not going to, help. So that's kind of what I meant by that. Right. I don't know what's the right analogy there for this, you know, or for example, I'm the best at putting together a pizza pie. Great. But then I can get something that is very high quality, either from a store or from nowadays even frozen, and put it in the oven. And it gets. I'm not saying there is no value for a handcrafted by you pizza, but the people who appreciate it and the instances where you appreciate it is getting smaller and smaller. And that's kind of what it is. People who can code by hand by themselves, it's like, or another example is stitching a handbag like by hand, like Hermes, like, versus something that is built by a machine. So the people who are artisans, who are good at stitching, you need less and less of them. And the niche, it's become a niche, which is kind of what coding has become. And so the people who are in need are the ones who understand what the customer preferences are for this handbag or this pizza pie, and can understand and specify those preferences and know how to get the machine to do the work for you.
Yeah, I have to think all of this is super interesting, particularly with your role with the Lacrosse Institute here at Darden.
Oh, yeah. I think that gets another place where you can see how, I get input in terms of what's going on in the world, because we engage in conferences with a lot of industry folks. Through the Lacrosse Institute, we build case studies, which is also valuable. We're also through this course on impact of business, like the DC Trek and the Global Trek. We're hearing from companies what is going on. So we're constantly in the mix. We're not like separated from industry.
Well, Raj, thank you so much for taking some time out of your afternoon for this conversation. It's great catching up with you, and always so much fun hearing about what's happening in the MSBA program. Looking forward to hearing more about the student projects in Module 5.
And thank you, Brett. I always enjoy talking to you, and thank you for all you do for us. And I'm looking forward to Module 5 and growing the MSBA with this exciting world of AI.
And that was my conversation with Raj Venkatesan, a member of the marketing faculty here at the Darden School of Business and one of the academic directors for the MS in Business Analytics program here at the University of Virginia. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, and you'd like us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. Till next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.